So Arjuna had asked a question as to which of the two spiritual aspirants is better. The one who is a bhakta. Bhakta means who adores the divine, adores God, with all his love, without feeling his separation from God, and at the same time he is going through his daily obligatory actions in life and dedicating those actions to the divine. So the karmas that he is doing, the daily karmas, is part of his worship. So they are done worshipfully, all his daily activities. So every person in life, they have got these activities, actions, karmas to go through. But this devotee, who is a bhakta, he performs his actions as a matter of duty and dedicates those actions to the divine. Then at the same time, he also cultivates the virtues of life without being attached to anything in particular. So this is one type of individual, as we mentioned yesterday, who has got those fivefold character attributes in him. Then the other type of devotee or the spiritual seeker is one who focuses his mind totally on the divine, on the imperishable, unmanifest divine, and he is constantly in a meditative state. He is constantly. That is his primary discipline. So there are two forms of disciplines here, or ways of life. One is the action itself becomes a discipline. These actions which are done are to be done as karma yoga, and they are a discipline to be gone through. So this is one type of individual. For the other type is that who has withdrawn from all actions and his entire life is focused upon the divine, on the unmanifest divine. So of these two persons, Arjuna is asking who is better? Who is better? Now Lord Krishna gives a very ingenious reply to that. He says, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, the good Lord said, Mai aveshya mano ye mam nitya yukta upasate shraddhaya parayo pedas te me yukta thama mataha. So he says, in my considered opinion, mata, in my opinion, he is giving an ingenious reply, a general reply, which includes both. So he says, but that person, your mom, so that individual whose mind has been centered in me, whose mind has been centered in me, my aveshya, mano ye ma. When nitya yukta, constantly, at all times, during his daily operations of living life, his mind is constantly fixed in me with awareness of my divine nature, my aveshya. So his mind is now focused and fixed in the Lord, and then at the same time he performs all his actions. And that is the way of his devotion. So while going through his activities, his mind is in God, is in the divine. Maya Vesha. Mano yema mitya yukta upasate. And his upasana is that, upasana means, in a general sense, practice. Practice is the general word used for upasana. Upa asana, samipe asana, that is to get near. So upa is to get near, asana is to sit near. So you can't sit near God, but you can. The way to sit near God is to be aware of God. So when you are aware of God, then you are near to Him. So being aware, when constantly, nitya upasate, nitya yukta, constantly you are aware of God. And to be aware of God, your mind is settled in God, and then you go about going through your actions and karmas of life. That is on one hand. So my aveshya mano yema nitya yukta upasate. And so the person who performs actions, he also maintains his awareness of God and does his actions, goes through his actions. So, and then with what attitude? Shraddhaya paraya. Shraddhaya paraya. With great deal of shraddha. Shraddha means paraya, with great supreme devotion. Shraddha is faith, with a great deal of faith. So it is said that you must have faith in three things. You must have faith in God. Yes, that there is God. So if somebody asks you, what is your faith? That's a wrong question. People ask this question all the time in the world. Your correct answer should be, whenever they ask you what is your faith, of course, my faith is in God. The matter is over. My faith is in God. I have faith in God. And that is your faith. It doesn't matter whether you are a Hindu or a Christian or anybody else, it matters little. So, my faith in, so that is Shraddha. So your Shraddha or faith in God is because you don't know. All that you know, and this remarkable thing about faith is, no amount of logical reasoning can make you have this faith. Of course, we can prove logically and otherwise that God exists. But invariably, people do not require this logical proof to accept and acknowledge. They know by the experience of life, as you keep on living life, in the depths of their heart, they begin to have a feeling and an awareness that there must be a superintelligence which exists, which is taking care of this entire universe. So it is this faith which naturally comes to a person. So that is the faith, that there is a God. Some people feel that there is no God. It's perfectly all right as far as they are concerned. You see, no amount of proof to them will make them accept the fact that there is a God. And for the people who have this natural faith, innate, inborn faith, for them too, a proof is not necessary. A logical proof. Of course there is a logical proof. To acknowledge and to understand that there is God, and this proof is said to be Arthapatti Pramana. Arthapatti means a proof by presumption. This is the proof. So you have to presume or assume that there is a God which exists. How? When you see this marvelous universe, this marvelous creation, this itself must indicate to you that this is a cosmos, not a chaos, not a cosmic chaos. Everything is so beautifully rhythmed in the whole universe. Everything has its appropriate place. It's such a mysterious wonder. And Not only that, even your own body is a wonder. Your own physical body is a remarkable wonder, how it was structured. So everything in this world is such a wonderful structure that you are amazed at it. And naturally, in order to explain the existence and the presence of this remarkable, wondrous cosmos, you have to acknowledge that there has to be a super intelligence which has brought about it. When you see a pot, a clay pot with beautiful decorated vases, then spontaneously and automatically you must come to an infer and understand that there must be an intelligence called the potter who must have created this remarkable and fashioned and designed this pot. So even though you don't see the potter, but you see the pot, and the pot enables you to have this inference. So without this inference, without this presumption, you cannot explain the presence of the pot. So also, as far as this remarkable universe is concerned, it is a rhythm, a wonderful, wondrous rhythm, rhythmic universe. Everything is in order. Everything is appropriate. If the sun were to be a little more closer, everything in the world would get burnt. There would be no life on planet Earth. If the sun were to be a little further away, then it would be so cold that nothing could live in the world. So the sun and the moon, they are all in their appropriate place. And the whole world is so beautifully set up in an appropriate setup that you may say that this universe is the greatest show on earth. I saw, when I was young, a circus which is called the greatest show on earth. But really speaking, this wonderful universe is the greatest show. It is so remarkable. It's so remarkable in its creation that seeing this world, you must naturally arrive at an understanding that there must be a cosmic intelligence, a super intelligence, which must have brought about this creation. And that wondrous intelligence is said to be God the Creator. Said to be God the Creator. Of course, there are others who may say that perhaps why do we need a Creator? After all, it could be an accidental process. And the atoms of the molecules combining and recombining themselves, one fine day, by chance, they so combined that this marvelous universe happened or took place. You could also say that. But it is like saying, but just by chance. So this is the theory of probability, wherein by chance, you come to feel that just by accident, by chance, the atoms of the molecules combined and recombined, and one fine day the cosmos came about. This is like saying that you give a pen to a monkey and ask the monkey to keep on scribbling, and then one fine day the monkey would be writing the plays of Shakespeare or by the plays of Kalidasa just by accident. It's not impossible, but it is highly improbable. It is highly improbable. So therefore, this you should understand, that for this entire beautiful cosmos which is around you, there must be a super intelligence which has brought it about. So we have to presume, even though we don't see that divine. Why don't you see the divine? Because the divine is such that it cannot be seen by your eyes. It cannot be seen by these fleshy eyes. But then, are there others who have experienced it? Yes. Yes. The great sages, the wise people and the saints the world over have acknowledged the experience of God as a matter of immediate experience. They have said yes. So when Swami Vivekananda asked Ramakrishna the question, have you seen God? The classic reply was, yes, my boy, I see him more clearly than I see you. Why does he say that I see you more clearly? The reason being that the only way to see God is to be God. There's no other way. So when you are God itself, then at that time you truly well know that you are the blessed divine. Yeah? You are that Paripurna Anandam, that's blessed divine, which is full of bliss and knowledge and wisdom. You know that. You can't miss it. You can't miss anything, but you can't miss yourself. So therefore, it is for those who have faith in God, they do not require a logical explanation to prove the existence of God. And for those who do not have the faith in God, no amount of logical explanation will convince them that there is a God. By and by, as you keep on living in the world, this faith will come to you. This understanding and the faith will come to you. And that there must be an intelligence which is looking after and taking care of you and the whole universe. So this is called faith or Shraddha. It is a natural inborn trait. So Shraddha, Paraya, Shraddhaya, Paraya. So faith in God is the first thing. Then the second is you must have faith in the Shruti, the scriptures. Because the scriptures come and declare to you that God is, God exists. That is the purpose of the scripture. It's a revelation, it reveals. What is a scripture? A scripture reveals and informs and educates you that there is a God, an intelligence, super intelligence which is that God exists. That is the purpose of it, because you don't know. You, with your own human mind, could presume or assume that there could be a God, but you're not sure about it, and you don't know what the nature of God is. So therefore the scripture comes and informs and declares to you, and from whom the scripture has come. Every scripture has been revealed by God himself. Not to any Tom, Dick and Harry with an impure mind, but to the wise people, the ancient sages and the holy people. God reveals it to them, and they in turn pass it on to the rest of humanity. So therefore revelation, scriptural revelation also comes and reveals to you that God is, that I am, that I exist. God informs you that I am, that I exist. And where do I exist? I exist everywhere. Not only everywhere, I exist within you too. And how, in what manner? I exist within you as you. But you are not aware of it. You are only at the present moment aware of your human nature, your human individuality, or your individual self. But behind that, as the basis of your own existence, there is the divine which is there. And I am there, residing as the very essence and the very basis of your own human existence. So in this way, the scripture comes and reveals this profound truth to you. So therefore, faith in God is one. Then secondly, faith in the scriptures, the scriptures. And then thirdly, faith in the teachings which have been given to you in the scriptures by your teacher, by your teacher, preceptor. That the teachings, when you get the teachings, you acquire a faith in the teachings. And the teaching will show you the way to God too. It's part of the whole process. So faith in these three factors is said to be faith. So Shraddhaya, Paraya, Upedas, Te Yukta Tama Mataha. And such people who have this faith, they are said to be Yukta Tama, they are well united in this practice. Yukta Tama Mata is my considered opinion. So imbued with faith, those people who go through their functions and actions in life, the karmas, and at the same time, their mind is settled in me. Their mind is settled in me. There are two ways in which your mind can be settled in God. If you have got actions to do your actions, but keep your mind settled in God, with God awareness. Or, if you are fortunate enough not to have any duties and any further karmas in life, then automatically, naturally, you will withdraw from active life and get yourself detached from everything. And then at the same time, your mind will also naturally be fixed in God. So in both senses, the mind is fixed. The mind is settled in God. Either way. whether you're doing actions or whether you are not doing actions as a hermit. For both, the mind has to be settled in God. So therefore, the reply given by Krishna is very ingenious. He doesn't say who is better. He says that it is good to have your mind settled in God. That is the best. That is the best. Then in the next verse 3, he says, but. He uses a but. Always there is a B-U-T, but. Yeah? Ye tu. The word tu, the but is always, he projects. So but means, but there is something else too. It's always, it is juxtaposing something. Ye tu, but des, ye tu, aksharam anirdesham avyaktam paryupasate sarvatragam achintyam chakudastam achalam dhruvam sanyamya indriya gramam sarvatra samabuddhayaha te prapnuvanti mameva sarvabhuta hite rataha. So he says, but those people, who are those people? Who have got their mind settled in the unmanifest divine, who have controlled sanyamya indriya grama, who have controlled their senses, their 6 senses, 5 plus 1. 5 senses is the mind, or 10 senses, the sense organs of action and sense organs of knowledge. 5 plus 5, 10, plus their mind, which is the 11th one. So all these things have been controlled, and then at the same time, they maintain their awareness in the aksharam, in that which is aksharam. Aksharam means that which is imperishable. So there is only one thing which is imperishable in life, and that which is imperishable is eternal, it is permanent. And that which is eternal and permanent is said to be the truth of life. That is why it is the truth. The truth is that which never ceases to be. That is why it is the truth. Anything which ever ceases to be is not the truth. The world disappears at the world's end. Therefore, it is not the truth. And you know very well, you also as an individual, you too also cease to be. At some point or the other, you are born and you fade away, you die too. So you as an individual is also not the truth. But there is something else which exists, but it is not manifest to you. So that which is not manifest to you, there is something which exists forever, and it doesn't fade like anything else. So that yetu aksharam, and that is called aksharam. Na sharati iti aksharam, that which never fades, ever fresh, as it has always been, as it always was. And that is said to be anirdeshyam. It is anirdeshyam. You cannot pinpoint and say this is what it is. You can pinpoint anything which belongs to this universe. You can say it is like this, it is like that, anirdeshyam. So, nirdeshyam, you can pinpoint and describe a flower which is part of the universe. You can describe a sky which is also part of this cosmos. You can describe even space somewhat, that it is empty space. So everything which is in the universe can be pinpointed and described by you as either blue or white or black or big or small, and you can indicate it. But this is something which is even more subtle than space, more subtler than space itself. But it is not visible to your eyes. God is not visible to your eyes. You need the mystic eye, the mystic eye of wisdom to experience and perceive the divine. So therefore, this is something which cannot be particularly categorized and pinpointed and explained that this is what the divine is. So anirdesham, it cannot be indicated and pinpointed. So it can't be described. The only way to describe the divine is to become silent to everything. When you become silent to everything, then that silence is the most eloquent description of God. And then if somebody asks you what is God, negatively put, you can say that it is not this, it is not this. It is not whatever you know. Then what is it? It is something. So if it is whatever you know is negated, then what else is left? That which is left after that is the divine. Is the divine. That is negatively put. It is not this universe. It is not you. Neti, not this, not this. All this is negated. But then having negated, there is something left over. Something left over. That is what it is. Positively put, the grandest definition for God is, there is a positive definition too. And that definition is Sat Chit Anand. I remember once, about 40 to 50 years ago, when I was seated with my Guru on the bank of the Ganges when I was a young person. So on the rocks we were seated up in the Himalayan mountains. And then he asked me, what is the definition for God? So I began saying so many things. Then he said, it is Sat Chit Anand. Sat means absolute existence. Absolute existence. Existence which transcends this empirical universe. This is the empirical visual universe. And that transcends this universe. All of you very well know that you exist. You know that you exist. No one ever denies and says that I do not exist. Do you ever deny that? No, you don't. You don't deny your existence. But what type of existence? Absolute existence. Absolute. And what type of absolute existence? Sat, that is called Sat. It is an existence which transcends time and transcends space. And that existence is something which does not change. It has in it, so it does not modify. And that is the nature of the divine, because it is ever constant. Why doesn't it change? Because it is perfect. A thing which is perfect undergoes no modification, no change. It cannot become more perfect. It cannot become less perfect. That is why it is said God is perfect. And it is that principle. So it is absolute existence. And then what type of existence? Sat Chit. So Chit is consciousness. Absolute consciousness. It is conscious of what? Of itself. To indicate that God is not an inert substance. That is why the word consciousness is used. Somebody may come and declare that perhaps this is what it is. No. So it is absolute consciousness. And in this absolute consciousness, there is no duality. It is non-duality. Non-dual awareness. Only God alone is. Only God alone is. Apart from God, nothing else is. In every pore, in every atom, in every molecule, in every creature, in all the angels, in all the gods in the universe, in everything, it is only this one God which exists equally everywhere. Equally everywhere. If you understand a hologram is that at every point it is fully present. So also God is totally and fully present at every point. It is not that God is more present elsewhere and less present somewhere. It is equally present everywhere. Equally present everywhere. This is what God's existence is. So Sat Chit. And then it is Chit also means knowledge, absolute knowledge. Absolute knowledge. So that is why it is popularly said God knows everything. God is aware of it because it is knowledge. You have ignorance as an individual, but as God you know everything. No one ever doubts that. Sat Chit. And then the third part of this definition is Ananda, bliss. What is it that you would like to have? Of course you have your little pleasures and joys in the world. This is your normal life, to have little pleasures. But in God, these little joys and pleasures do not exist. It is all joy, it is all bliss indeed. It's total bliss. Blissful existence. What else do you want? You are the embodiment of bliss. And so therefore, Sat Chit Ananda, this is the nature of the divine. And this divine cannot be indicated by any particular means or ways of knowing, because it is avyaktam. Avyaktam, it is unmanifest to you. Unmanifest. So, God has no form at all. Anything which belongs to the universe has got a form, which is part of this universe. So, God has no body, no bodily existence. Like you have, like the gods have, like the angels have, the divine does not have bodily existence. So, therefore, it is unmanifest. Avyaktam, pariyupasate, and those people, and these are certain types of people who worship, who settle their mind in this divine, which is of such a nature. And then sarvatragam. Sarvatragam means it is everywhere. God is everywhere. See, these are popular expressions which are used in the world, that God is perfect, and God is everywhere, and God is full of love, is all love indeed. So therefore, it is sarvatragam, it is everywhere. There is not a place where God is not. Sarvatragam. Sarvatragam. It is, so that means sarvavyapi. Sarvavyapi means it is everywhere. God is everywhere. And then achintyam. Since it is unmanifest to you, and it is achintyam, God is achintyam. So the word achintyam stands for that you cannot think of God. You just cannot think of God. You can think of anything in the world. Anything which belongs to this world you can think of. But you cannot think of God. You can, because the moment you begin to think, all your thinking process is only with reference to the world. You only think things of the world indeed. So you cannot think of anything which is beyond this world. So therefore, achintyam. So the clue is being given to you that achintyam, since God is achintyam, it is beyond thought. You cannot think of God. Therefore, the only way to think of God is not to think. By not thinking, you are thinking of God. That's the whole secret. So the clue is being given to you, achintyam. If God is beyond thought, why are you thinking? It's useless. It's useless to think. Stop thinking. Achintyam. So this is the beginning. Achintyam, you're going to stop thinking. So long as you think, your mind will revolve only around the world. Round this world it will be revolving. The moment you stop thinking, so we are all educated and trained to think. But in modern society, you're not trained to not to think. You're not trained not to think. So this too is part of your education. The way to God is not to think. Not to think of anything. And not to think of God too. Not to think of God because you can't think of Him. So therefore stop thinking. So when you stop thinking, now you have begun to think of the unthinkable. Of the unthinkable. There is a technical secret in this which I am not explaining because that is not the subject at the moment. So sarvatragam achintyam cha kutastham. And where is God? Kutastham. Kutastham means, you know, the kuta means the anvil. It's the anvil. So here kuta also means maya. Another meaning for the word kuta means it is maya. Kuta is something which is deceptive. That is why kuta is said. The word kuta in Sanskrit means deceptive, something which is kutatma. When you say this fellow, he is a deceptive person, we say he is a kutatma. He is a deceptive individual, be careful. He hides something and projects something else. So here also, kutastham, God is abiding somewhere, and that which is where he is abiding is kuta. Kuta is maya. He is abiding and in maya. So what maya has done is, it is covering God. That's what it is. Maya is covering God. And what is maya? What is the product of maya? You have heard of the word maya. So Maya is a great illusion which covers and deludes you. It covers and deludes you. And this entire universe is what Maya is. It's an effect of Maya. This whole universe, from where you are, including your body, which is part of this Maya, is what this whole delusion is all about. And Kutastham means it is established in this delusion. So where you see the world, there itself God is there. Where you see the world, there itself God is to be experienced. Why? Because this universe is covering God for you at the moment. Right now, God's existence is being covered by this glamorous universe. This glamorous universe of name and form, and of movement and change and causation. This universe with this character has now veiled and covered God indeed, and what immediately strikes your mind is only the universe. When you open your eyes, you see this glamorous world of names and forms. And it is these names and forms which are covering the divine. This universe. So God's existence is there where the whole universe is. Where the whole world is, there itself God's existence is there. So therefore, Kutastham, it is firmly established where it is. So it's like this. In order to understand this, there is a famous couplet in the Tamil language. And it was sung by one of the great Siddhas, the holy people. And what it says is, Marathai maraithtadu mamada yane. Marathil maraindadu mamada yane. You see, in twilight, as you are driving in the forest, you saw a tree which appeared like an elephant. Which appeared like an elephant in twilight, just beside the road. A massive tree with a bent branch. So immediately you mistook the tree for an elephant. And then now you did not want to proceed any further. So what did you do? You stopped your vehicle and took a good look at the elephant which was standing beside. As you were seeing the elephant there, and the elephant did not move. So what else did you do? You kept on proceeding a little closer because the elephant did not move. As you got a little more closer, you found that it is not an elephant, but it is only a tree in the shape of an elephant. In the shape of an elephant. So what has happened? Marathai maraithtadu mamada yane. That means the tree was covered by the elephant. The tree was covered by the elephant. And when you had a good look at it, then what happened? Marathil maraindadu mamada yane. The great elephant disappeared into the tree. It disappeared into the tree. Now we will correlate this. So there was only the tree there. It was not an elephant. So there itself, so it was a misperception or error. It was an error. In the same way too, Parathai maraithtadu ma perum pudam. Parathil maraindadu ma perum pudam. Param is the divine, the supreme divine Param. Parathai maraithtadu ma perum budam. Budam is the ghost. The ghost of this universe. You know, this universe is a ghost. It's a ghost of a universe covered the divine. And then when you had the good education from the scriptures and went through your practices, then you found that Parathil maraindadu ma perum pudam. And when you took a good look at the universe, not as the universe, but as the divine, and you had this eye of wisdom imparted to you, the spiritual eye of wisdom, and as you began looking at it with your spiritual eye of wisdom, then what happened was, this Ma Perum Bhutam, this great ghost of a universe, began disappearing into the divine. Because all along it was only the divine, which now, because of this Maya, the power of Maya delusion, it covered the divine and appeared as the universe. So therefore, Kutastam, the divine is that which appears, which exists where this entire universe is. Kutastam. Achalam. Achalam means it does not move like a mountain which is steady and firm. It doesn't change. It doesn't modify. So, Achalam. So, the divine does not change or modify. It is always constant, ever fresh, as it was, as it has always been, eternally. It is constant, Achalam. And Dhruvam. Dhruvam means it is certain, it is the truth. Nityam, it is always there. So the thing, and that which is always there is the truth, is the reality. That's why it is the reality. So God is the only reality. And this reality is your reality too. It is your reality too. But in order to experience this, these hermits who have got this understanding, what do they do? Sanyamya Indriya Gramam. Having controlled their various senses, the sense organs, and Sanmya Indriya Gram, Sarvatra Samabuddhaya, and they maintain this equal vision everywhere. That equal vision, Samabuddhaya, Sama is the equal vision, equal, Buddhaya, Buddhaya, equal vision everywhere. So when you maintain this equal vision, you do not perceive the distinctions which are there in the whole universe. Keep that one vision. See that all the distinctions are cleared out of you. Because God is one. God is one. In God's nature of beingness, there are no distinctions and no differences. God is equally present everywhere, in everything. So maintain this vision of oneness in all your perceptions everywhere. Everywhere. Just maintain this vision of oneness. And also maintain Samabuddhaya, have an equal vision everywhere. Have an equal vision, that is also necessary. When you do not have this equal vision everywhere, then what happens is, in your psychological state, there will be fluctuations. There will be fluctuations created. You don't want to create these fluctuations in your psychological state. So you should not have aversions for some people, and an exalted feeling for some other people, and an exalted feeling for some other people, because that is creating not that state of shall we say that state of equanimity, but you have created a fluctuation by this feeling of feeling different for some people and feeling different for somebody else. So these are fluctuations which come in your psychological state, and these fluctuations will disturb the feeling of equanimity which you are supposed to maintain in everything and in all aspects of life. If you have aversion for something, your equanimity is broken. Your psychological state of equanimity is broken. So therefore, for your own healthy, spiritual being, you should see to it that you don't have aversions for anything or for anybody. And then at the same time, its opposite also should not be maintained by you. So that is why Samabuddhaya, you must maintain the state of equipoise everywhere indeed in the living of your life. Then, te praptuvanti mameva, such people, they attain me. They attain me means they become me. They become one with me and they are me itself. They praptuvanti mameva. And then at the same time, such people, sarva bhuta hite rataha, they live their life for the benefit of all humanity, of all people and all things indeed. For everybody. So their life henceforth is meant for the well-being of all concerned in the whole universe. Sarva bhuta hitera. So these are the people who are truly a friend indeed. But then, he says, but this state of affairs is a little difficult. It's a little difficult. Why? In the 5th verse he mentions, klesho, it's a little klesha. Klesha means it's a little difficult, klesha. Problematical, we use the word problematical. Klesho adhikatarastesham avyakta asakta chetasam. Avyakta hi gatir dukkam dehavatbir avapyate. Klesho adhikatara. So, for such people who try to maintain such an awareness, it's a great difficulty indeed. Why? Tesham avyakta asakta chetasam. For those people whose minds are totally focused in that unmanifest, nameless, formless, unthinkable divine, it's a little difficult. Klesho, it's a little difficult. And what type of people are these? Are these people? So in order to maintain this awareness, you must be endowed with Advaita Vasana. Advaita, in technical language terminology, Advaita Vasana means non-dual awareness. At the moment, the human race is functioning with Dvaita awareness, duality, awareness of duality. Everybody in the world is functioning with duality. I and you, I and the universe, I and everything else. So this is duality. And so long as you have this duality, it becomes a little difficult to maintain this unconditional, non-dual awareness. So in order to, why? Because your samskaras, your vasanas or samskaras means your present innate psychological impressions are only Dvaita impressions, and these Dvaita impressions of duality you have been saturated with this. But, there is a but there, once again. But as you keep on living a noble, righteous life of Dharma, of nobility and Dharma, Dharma has got, when you are living in this way, then you will have the sense of goodness, sense of justice with everything that you do. You will be just towards everything and everybody in the whole universe. And goodness too, natural goodness. And you are naturally also at the same time very righteous in all what you do and correct in everything that you do. Then for such a person, what happens is, by the grace of God, as you keep on living your life in this manner, you acquire merit. Merit means punya. This way of life, that is why it is said, live a noble righteous life so that you can acquire punya or merit. The outcome of this punya or merit is to, by the grace of God, to induce this Advaita Vasana. This Advaita Vasana means this non-dual awareness. That is the beginning. So you need this Advaita Vasana so that you can maintain this awareness in the divine nature. And for you to have this Advaita Vasana, you must live a dharmic, a righteous life of goodness. So one follows the other. So therefore, unless you have this Advaita Vasana, then one will not be able to maintain the chetas. Avyakta asakta chetasa. Avyakta asakta. Asakta means your chetasaka, your intelligence, your wisdom, your awareness, discriminative awareness is now fully settled in that non-dual awareness of God. And this non-dual awareness of God is said to be the beginning of Advaita Vedanta. Not till then. Not until this Advaita Vasana comes into you will you be able to successfully maintain this. And Advaita Vasana will only come when, by the grace of God, through the punya that you had gone through the merit that you had acquired, by a meritorious life. So therefore, for such people, avyakta hi gatir dukkham dehavatbir avapyate. So Avyakta hi gati. Gati means the way, the path of avyakta, the path of settling your mind in the unmanifest divine. Is difficult, dukkham, is difficult indeed. For whom? For those people, deha vatbir avapyade, for those people who have obtained a body. Because when you have a human body or any body, what happens is you are so much identified and involved with this body of yours that it becomes difficult for you to get yourself detached from this body. Because this body takes all your attention. For the maintenance of this body and looking after this body, your great deal of your time is occupied, is taken there. So you need so many things to keep this body going. And your attachment, your oneness with this body is so strong that to dissociate yourself from this body becomes difficult. That is why it is said, who is man and who is God? Very interesting question. That one and the same consciousness which is there within you, that divine consciousness, when it gets attached to and identified with this body complex, then you become mad. As simple as that. And that consciousness which is there, when it gets detached and dissociated, fully dissociated and detached from this body complex, then it becomes God. It is God. It doesn't become, it is God. It is God. This is the mystic secret. How did God become man and how can man get back to God? So that consciousness which is there, the pristine, pure, divine consciousness, in identification with this body, and you have three types of bodies, the gross body, the subtle body, and the causal body. These three bodies are there, and your daily life is experienced through these three bodies. In the waking state, through the gross body, in the dream state, through the subtle body, and in the deep sleep state, you are identified with the causal body, which is full of ignorance. So these are the three bodies with which you are now identified, and because of this attachment and total identification with this, you feel that you are a man. If you tell a man you are not a man, he will get very angry. In normal life, if you tell him, because the man has got such a big ego with him and he feels that he is a man. And if you question that and tell him you are not a man, immediately he gets offended and angry because of his identification. But his reply should have been, I am glad to know that I am not a man, he should have said, because I am the divine. So thank you for pointing out to me, if he had better wisdom. So therefore here also, when you get yourself detached from this identification, you regain yourself as what you are, what you naturally are. This is the whole secret. So therefore he says, for the person who has got this physical body, because of his identification and involvement and preoccupation, this is your preoccupation, is it not? It's a preoccupation. So with the body, even for sadhus who are hermits, they also have got one little problem there. They also have to take care of the body. It is not that they are bodiless, but it is a big, so the sadhus also set their timetable according to their bhiksha time. They go for their alms, the bhiksha, and their timetable for the day. You set your timetable to go to office early in the morning. He sets his timetable at the time when he has to go for his alms. It's a peculiar thing. He also has to take care of his body. So accordingly, he prepares and organizes himself for that. So therefore, for those people who have got a human body, it becomes a little difficult to maintain this awareness on the divine constantly at all times. That is why the good Lord has given you activities and actions. The reason being that alambana means you've got a prop. You've got a prop, isn't it? It's very difficult to keep quiet. Can you? You will get lost. Because I remember when I was staying at Gangotri, up in the Himalayan mountains at 10,000 feet. We used to live there. We were a few sadhus living there. About 20, 30 of us were living there in the summertime, not in the winter, summertime, because it is snowbound in the winter. And then pilgrims come there. There's nothing there. Just a little temple there and just a few sadhus who are just living there. And the jungle is all around. It's all around jungle indeed. And a few little primitive, at that time, primitive guest houses, primitive places where they can stay in that awful cold. So they used to wonder how these sadhus can live here. So they asked them, what do you do here? What do you do? What is there to be done? There's nothing. So the sadhus we tell them, there's nothing to do here, we just live here. There's nothing to do because there is nothing, no distractions, nothing, you just stay there. Nothing to do there. So, but they can't do that because they need occupation. They need distractions, they need activities. So at the most they can spend a day or two there. And so therefore, God has given you karmas and activities to be occupied. To be occupied. Alambana. So, having your karmas as an activity or alambana, you can now go about living your life. Because if you have nothing to do, you will go crazy. So therefore, an alambana is there, a prop is there, which will keep you healthily occupied. And while being occupied with your karmas, your daily karmas, now, at the same time, you can also gently maintain the awareness of God. Maintain that awareness of God. Then it's easier. While for those people who have no activities, they have no prop, and they are totally focused on the divine without any, on the unmanifest divine, they have no alambana there, and therefore it becomes more difficult. So that is what Krishna says. They have what been. So klesho adhikataras tesham, for them it's more difficult in that sense. But really speaking, once you have got the Advaita Vasana, once the Advaita Vasana has come into you, then it is very easy and natural for those people to go through that. But in case you don't have this Advaita Vasana, then it becomes difficult. It becomes difficult. Therefore, he says, there is a way for this. And that he mentions, he will elaborate it. In the next few verses, he is going to reveal to you in the gradations of karma yoga, how actions are to be done as a supreme spiritual discipline. And the various gradations he is going to give you in the next few verses, and how you should perform your actions as karma yoga, because it is a great science indeed. It's a great karma yoga. It doesn't mean that it is doing social work and selfless work. That is not karma yoga at all. But there is a mystery behind this. And the entire Bhagavad Gita explains the very character and nature of karma yoga. And the next 6 verses are going to describe that as to what karma yoga is. And he gives you 4 particular ways by which we can say that when you go through some operation, if one doesn't work, then you take on to the second one, the second course of action. If the second course of action is not conducive, you take on to the third one. So in this way, he will give you 4 methods by which karma yoga could be practiced. And the science of karma yoga will be explained. Om Tat Sat.